Hello everybody, thank you for visiting our channel. Today we are going to Berlin. This city has a special place in my heart as this was the first Western city I went to as a young teenager and spent about a year there. German capital has so much to offer. Incredible history, unique architecture, lots of greenery, so much culture. So here are some 15 things or ideas to consider when visiting Berlin. We are starting with Alexanderplatz. Perhaps one of the most recognized Berlin symbols is the TV tower. This is probably the best achievement by the Soviet regime of the DDR. We decided to be tourists and go up. You can buy tickets online, link is below. Again, try to book in advance. As you can see from here, you get a 360-degree views of Berlin. We booked a restaurant reservation ticket because it was more available. So a bottle of sekt later, that's German sparkling wine, we were buzzed enough to come back to Earth, also a little dizzy as the restaurant is rotating. Kidding, we were not dizzy from rotation, we were just a little intoxicated. There is also a nice park with a Neptune fountain, very nice, and some pretty buildings like this red Rathaus, which is the town hall of Berlin. Now, next thing we need to document is the Berlin Wall, well, what's left of it. As you probably know, Berlin Wall separated East Berlin from West Berlin because socialist government of East Germany wanted to prevent people from running away to West Berlin, which was part of the Western world after the World War II. This place is called East Side Gallery. It's a free outdoor gallery. So insane to imagine a city divided by this wall for 28 years. But anyway, the art on the wall is pretty cool and thought-provoking. On the way to the East Side Gallery, we noticed a cool hangout place called Holzmarkt 25 and decided to stop by on the way back. It was indeed a cool outdoor park on the river Spree, with a bunch of quirky little bars, some food stalls, music venue, a place for everyone to hang out. After so much walking, a chill-out place with some German version of Aperol Spritz is exactly what the doctor ordered. Next on our list, connecting Alexanderplatz with Brandenburg Gate, is this fabulous boulevard called Unter den Linden, means under the linden trees, which were about to bloom, but not just yet. The city must smell amazing because they're everywhere in Berlin. As you walk along Unter den Linden, you walk by the main cathedral, the museum island, the opera, and many more structures that truly demonstrate the grandeur of German nation. What dominates Museum Island is Berliner Dome, the main cathedral. It's really hard to miss, and we decided to stop by and see the inside. As you can see, it's certainly grand enough for a main cathedral of German capital. It's actually an evangelical church. I suppose that's why it's still quite fancy. Museum Island is literally an island on the River Spree, where 5 major museums are located. Pergamon Museum is probably the most famous for its collection of Babylonian art, but it is under renovation now. I decided to visit a National Gallery museum. It is really nice, and you do see many works of German masters, but also many other world-famous artists. I truly thoroughly enjoyed it. Next, we are moving to another iconic and touristy site of Berlin, Brandenburg Gate. Brandenburg refers to the old Roman naming convention for these lands. Also, Berlin was a capital of Prussia before Germany became an empire. And Prussian kings needed something similar to Arc de Triomphe in Paris to show off how fancy they are, etc. I also find it ironic that it overlooks a plaza called Platz, Parisian Plaza. Next is the Memorial to the Murdered Jews of Europe. This collection of 2,711 concrete slabs aligned in a grid is a somber place. There is no clearly stated interpretation of what exactly the creator's idea was. My interpretation is, while it does resemble a graveyard, I think it's supposed to generate a feeling of despair. Another very famous site is Checkpoint Charlie. This was a site where American and Soviet army brought tanks and almost started another war over an American diplomat wanting to go to an opera in East Berlin. Luckily, they came to their senses. It is a long but stupid story. Apparently, and I had no idea about this, as suggested by our neighbor from Berlin, a show at Friedrichstadt Palast is a must. Unfortunately, filming there was not allowed, but it's certainly something we suggest doing if you are into this type of entertainment. Link to their site is below. Next, over to the Reichstag building, yet another one of the most visited sites in Berlin. The building houses the German federal government, Bundestag. With registration, it is actually free. General public can enter the building and its dome, which is pretty impressive design-wise. You don't get to enter the chambers or anything like that, of course. It gets very busy, especially on the weekends. There is a big likelihood that you will not be able to visit on the same day. You will need a real ID, like your passport, in order to register and get your date and time slot. There is an online registration, but we were already at the site, so we registered in person at the special booth nearby. The wait was not too long. Tiergarten is this giant park in the middle of Berlin, stretching from Brandenburg Gate all the way west to the zoo, and what is kind of like the western center of Berlin. Smacked right in the middle of the park is Victory Column, dedicated to Prussian victory over the Danes in the 19th century. You can climb inside and admire the views, but itself the statue of Angel is very pretty and shiny. We are moving now to what used to be the center of West Berlin. When I was living in Berlin in 1990, I used to like to come here because it felt really decadent and radical. The site of Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church was rebuilt after heavy bombardment, but rebuilt to retain the look of the destruction. In general, Berlin chose to keep a lot of reminders of the war. For instance, you can see bullet holes on most old buildings. Considering how horrific the war was, in order to prevent something like that from happening again, it's best not to forget it. It has become a little bit of a tradition of ours. We end another episode with shopping. Honestly, not that we ever shop at these glitzy places, it's just nice to know that the option is there. KaDeWe is this old and famous Berlin department store where you find the latest and greatest. I also found a cool place called Bikini Berlin, very cool collection of mostly small independent shops. Lastly, head over to KuDam, short for Kurfürstendamm. It is this long, tree-lined boulevard where you find everything from Zara to Louis Vuitton. The neighborhood itself is a lot more laid back and less rigid than the areas we covered in this episode. Nice residential streets with many cafes, etc. Just feels like a more normal, old and charming European neighborhood. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this episode useful. If so, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any comments, please leave them and we will address them all. Thank you so much. Auf Wiedersehen.